it's less about following the perfect diet or the perfect exercise plan. It's about doing the simple things right consistently. And that's the hard part of taking care of your health. Because the whole thing with Lunchly was that it was marketed as a healthier version of Lunchables.
Right.
Yeah. There's a claim being made that it's healthier, which is very limited if you're going to even say it's healthier. There should be a little bit of integrity there where you're like, if I'm going to be influential, I got to make sure I tell the truth and then I'm guiding in the right direction.
Welcome back to another episode of the Fellas Podcast, and we are here in New York, and we are with the amazing. We've got a legitimate doctor.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy to be fair.
I'm on call.
You are on call.
Yes.
Do you have Obviously, you're looking at a big Grey's Anatomy fan here.
Yes.
Right.
For real?
I just was in Grey's Anatomy today. I was in the hospital saving lives.
Right. So you're
I walk around like that, and I just say it's a good day to save lives.
Oh wow!
I don't actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be very
emotional.
American. I feel like
Yes.
it fits the bill.
Honestly, that show gives me a lot of stress and raises my blood pressure because I'm always screaming at the TV. That's not how it happens.
Yeah.
But for the drama of it all, I guess
Did
it
they
makes
get all the
sense.
facts wrong and stuff in it?
Not all, but like they definitely over dramatize it, and they also make doctors on screen full time doing everything. Whereas we have teams, we have nurses, physical therapists, respiratory techs, but like they just show doctors doing everything.
One man
and like
army.
one doctor performing surgery, working in the ER. I'm like, all right, not realistic.
Yeah. So could you just explain briefly to our audience what exactly you do? Like obviously you make YouTube videos, some extremely popular ones. That's how we came across your content. But I'd love to just hear it from you quickly. Like, what is it exactly that you do?
Yeah, so I'm a primary care doctor, which is like a GP in your world. And I take care of people of all ages, men, women, children, everything. And in the midst of my training, I got some popularity on social media. And I said, what can I do with that? And I said, why not educate? Why not break up misinformation, fight the good fight of getting people excited about their health? Science was fairly boring, especially when I was growing up. And if there was a TV doctor, they were spreading bullshit. They were selling you some miracle supplement. Take this, you'll lose weight, or take this, you'll get stronger, faster, leaner.
Yeah.
And I was always mad at it because I'm in the hospital. I'm like, this isn't real life. This isn't what actually helps people. And I said, let me start a YouTube channel. Started a YouTube channel, and over the last 7 years, we've grown to almost 13 million subscribers, 50 to 100 million views a month. So like really healthy stats.
Those are crazy
for
numbers.
educational content.
We love
Yeah,
that
that's
because that
awesome.
is
Yeah.
exactly what we don't do. If anything, I would argue that we make your job harder.
Yes.
No.
Um,
Laughter is the best medicine. So
oh,
You know
yeah.
what?
that's facts. I read that somewhere. That was in a
I would
textbook.
argue an ibuprofen definitely tops it. Like, yeah. So yeah, you make and some of your most popular videos are kind of what we just spoke about there of you reacting to like TV moments or and things like that. Is there a particular show or movie that just got it so terribly wrong and you are just there like, this isn't even close?
Honestly, like all those 911 series
Yeah.
are so incredibly inaccurate from like a realism standpoint.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. They'll have like a shark attack on the freeway because it was being towed on a trailer and someone came up to it and it bit them.
okay.
And I'm like, can you like, I think the writers for that show sit and they
It's
say,
not
how can we
impossible,
create the most impossible thing to happen? They're basically writing comic books, but are trying to make it medical. That's how I think about it.
So wait, you're telling me there's an episode where a shark bites somebody while it's being towed along the, well, we call it the motorway?
Yeah, motorway, yeah.
Well,
So like,
that
imagine
sounds
there's like a
fucking
call.
sick.
It's exactly like how you imagine one of these shows to go. We have a shark attack, and they're like, all right, we're heading over to the beach now. They're like, it's on the highway. Or
Dun,
motorway.
dun,
Dun.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
What episode number? Because I need to lock
I need to be
into
watching
that shit. That sounds
I love how
crazy.
he's instantly trying to pull
Yeah,
this
he's just
thing
trying to
up.
find it. We'll all be watching
There
it
you go.
tonight.
Look, we found it.
Shark bites.
Inside 911's craziest rescues from Freeway Shark.
Wait, so wait, just to confirm that
Rogue
this is
bouncy houses. Look at that. Bouncy houses flying around. Actually, that did happen. Though.
so, but this is a fake series, or
Yes,
this
it's
is
a fake
yeah,
series,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. It's not like we're following around a real.
No, but like
team.
there's a cool show out of Australia called Bondi Beach Rescue.
Yes. Oh man, we all
They
watch
do
that
some
in the UK.
epic rescues there that are super hard hitting in real life. Like people lose their lives on the show. They lose their pulse. They do good chest compressions, which is a big part of my show, teaching people that if you find someone down on the street and they're not breathing, you can't feel a pulse, the first thing you do is
You You give him a big kiss. And
Call
he's
the
like,
ambulance.
Yes.
Oh,
you
call
gotta
the
call for
ambulance.
help first
Okay, right.
because you're not gonna save them. Sorry, guys.
I can't
You
believe
would've
I
said
can't believe
yeah.
I got that right. I think the whole room.
So you would either call for help,
Yeah.
or if you're busy, you yell for one specific person to call for help. Because if you just yell into the wind, "Hey, call for help!" everyone thinks the other person's gonna call for help, and no one calls.
What's it called? Like the
Bystander effect.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So like that does happen. So you call for help, and then right away you start doing chest compressions, pushing hard and fast, one hand on top of the other in the center of the chest. How perfectly you do it doesn't even matter. You're giving the person time in order to circulate the blood that's in
What's
their
the
system.
rhythm?
Staying alive. The good old song. Staying alive. Staying alive.
From
Is
the
that a popular song in the UK?
The Office.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And they've
I was
got the
about to
scene
say
with
that.
the
You guys
office
are
where
looking
they
at me
Yeah,
like,
we have Spotify. We're good.
okay, good.
Yeah. No, but could you just imagine if you were the one dying and then you can just hear this fucking guy?
do it. Stick his head alive.
And you're just there like, stop taking the piss, man. I'm literally dying here.
No, but if you're dying, that
Yeah,
means
but
you
he's
should
not
stop
gonna-
doing chest compressions. Because if the person's
True.
breathing or talking, that means they have a pulse. You don't need
You don't need to do that.
Okay.
So if you're doing
This
chest
is-
compressions, that means they're dead.
Okay.
So you're trying
is a Hail
to
Mary.
buy
That's a
them
good point.
time for advanced cardiac life support to come and give them either a medication or a defibrillation if they need it to bring them back.
If there was one life-saving skill that you could give to everybody right now, or bit of knowledge, I imagine it wouldn't be that because not enough people come across somebody without a pulse. Do you know what I mean? What would that be?
Oh, like a
And you're not allowed to
preventative
say
one.
like
I can't
not
do like a
putting up-
Wolverine healing thing.
No,
like
no, no.
the-
It can't be a
gotta
or
be
like
real.
a vampire
It's gotta be real.
thing. Okay, real.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
it's got to be chest compressions.
Okay,
Really?
what about
Yeah.
if they're alive? Something where they're alive, but you know, it's
Like
like,
on
a,
the
like a
verge?
preventative thing. Something not like
Yeah.
when they're dead. Because I've never seen someone.
I mean,
I've
a lot
never
of
seen
first
that.
aid is just calling for help.
Right.
Because a lot of the things, and the purpose of help coming is to stabilize a person temporarily and get them to a medical center where we have tools to help people. That's the problem of, like, if you're in a military zone, you're doing things outside of medical, like, establishments, that's where it gets really hard. And I actually had a situation like that on a plane one time. Freaked me out completely.
And
Oh,
yeah, wait. Oh, so on a plane.
Yeah.
And so what
Whoa.
did you? So did they go? Do we have a doctor on
Yeah.
board? And you're there like,
And I had
actually,
I had a hoodie on, and
you
I'm
mind
like,
if I vlog
I'm about
this?
to go to sleep, and I'm like, oh, I can help, and they're like, no, come on, you're not a doctor. And I was like, no, swearsies, I'm a doctor.
Swearsies.
Yeah,
He
they
dropped
didn't
out of the
check.
plane.
Yeah.
Okay, now he said swearsies. Yeah, he's got to be.
Yeah, he's valid.
So they said, check out this guy, and it was a young guy. He said, I'm having an allergic reaction on my hands. And I'm like, oh, not a big deal. You know, do you have allergy medicine? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, take it. You'll be okay. If anything starts happening in your mouth, let me know. I'm sitting in this seat. 5 minutes later, he comes back. My throat's closing up. I'm like, all right, give me your EpiPen. He goes, what EpiPen?
Oh,
I go, okay, to the flight attendant, give me your EpiPen. She goes, what EpiPen? And I realized we're going to be in a really bad spot. So I open their kit. I'm looking at the medications. There is no EpiPen, but there is the same medication called epinephrine in a really huge needle that's used if someone's heart stops. It's the same medicine, but different dosage, different needle, much thicker, huge needle. And I'm sitting there like, to the pilot, can we land? He's like, we're in the middle of Atlantic Ocean. It's like hours back to Canada or hours forward to
Jesus.
Portugal. We're not landing. So I'm like, let's MacGyver this thing. Let's figure it out. Let's estimate because there's no Wi-Fi to look this up. And I give him the dose as accurately as I could in his thigh with his pants down around his ankles in the first class cabin with everyone staring. And he's bleeding all over the place because this needle's way too big, screaming. But he survived.
Oh, was it painful for him, the needle?
I mean, it was
Yeah.
a thick needle.
Like a thick one.
thick needle.
Yeah, that
It
sounds
wasn't
like
meant to go into
I
his
can't even
thigh.
picture
Right.
it. I've never really
Like the
seen a
needle that's
thick ass-
given in one of these epinephrine auto injectors are really thin.
Can you find
and
it?
cute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then look up like a cardiac epinephrine kit, and you'll see how
How do
thick
I
the
spell
needle
that?
is. Cardiac, C.
No, epinephrine.
Epi. Neph. That right there.
an EpiPen, they just don't carry them on planes.
So they
Even
didn't
though
at
the-
that time.
Oh, okay.
So we give him the dose, and then he actually scared me because he said, "Oh, I think it's coming back," and I was so nervous because I was like, "Oh my God, do I have to cut into his throat now? Because like it's coming back." But I realized giving him the epinephrine, this is adrenaline, right?
Yeah.
So he started getting really dry throat, which, you know, if you're going on stage and you have a dump of adrenaline, you also feel that. That's what he was actually feeling. And I used my iPhone flashlight to confirm that it wasn't actually closing up again. So we monitored his vitals the rest of the flight, got him off safely. We had like a little reunion afterwards when we landed. And like a few days later, he was healthy, happy. saved this young man's life. And
Oh,
the cool part was
nice.
afterwards, I started telling the story on YouTube, which is like power of social media. And we got some, specifically a U.S. senator in the United States reached out, Chuck Schumer, and said, hey, do you want to stand with me and we'll do a press conference mandating that planes get EpiPens on them?
Yeah.
And I'm like, absolutely. So we
That
did
seems
that.
like a no-brainer.
And now we're like 70% of the planes have EpiPens. So
Oh, wow.
from a
So
YouTube experience
So
to
the allergy, I
Making big
imagine it was
influence.
like a nut allergy.
no, so that's what you
No.
would think.
Yeah.
He had a very unique situation where he actually developed a red meat allergy after being bit by a tick in the south of the United States called the Lone Star tick. And you could get this really rare reaction from getting bitten by this tick. that
That's
you
your
develop a
worst
red meat.
nightmare.
Yeah,
because
'cause I
this guy
love
only
steak.
eats steak.
I love steak.
So this
So
is,
this guy
So
can't
if you ever
eat,
want to go vegan, maybe that might be a
so
strategy.
this guy
moving down south.
this guy can't eat steak no more.
It could be temporary. It might not be for the rest of his
Wow,
life.
Oh, I wouldn't want to fuck around and find
that's
out.
Exactly. Yeah. So scary.
You really can't avoid that as well, just getting a bit by a tick. It's just so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and he wasn't really aware of it either. So
That's wild, man. You literally lived out like what, like
A Grey's
movie.
Anatomy episode,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
And so do you get? Do they cut you a little check? Like, yo, thanks for the.
You would think so, right? So we land, the plane lands, and all the passengers who witnessed this mayhem that was going on look at me and they're thanking me. And I'm like, oh, you're thanking me because I saved this young guy's life, right? They go, oh, no, we're thanking you for not diverting the flight.
Fuck off.
I'm like, all right, humanity, 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I'm like, the flight attendants, thank you so much for helping me. You guys were awesome. They wrote me a card. They all signed it. Thank you for your medical help. I was like, oh, that's awesome. They said, can we have your frequent flyer number? We want to send you a reward from the airline for not diverting. It's, tens of thousands of dollars.
Lifetime gold status.
That's
Let's
what
go.
I'm thinking. Or maybe refund my ticket,
Ooh,
something
that would be
unique. $100.
Oh, fuck's sake.
That
So I
is
was able
wild.
to check my luggage on the way back for free.
Oh, shit.
That is nuts.
These airlines are always stingy though. Like
Yeah,
when
they're
someone gets delayed and they'll give you like, oh, you can get a free drink on the flight.
I'm
It's just
surprised
like,
they didn't charge me for using their epinephrine. to be
Yeah.
honest. Like,
That's a good-
oh, are you going to reimburse us for this?
oh
Yeah.
my god.
I mean,
That is crazy.
especially considering I heard, right, and tell me if this is true, in the US, and it cost like over it's like $2,000 to call an
Oh.
ambulance.
Oh, I mean, it depends where you
Where-
are,
yeah.
what your insurance is. The problem is we don't have a universal healthcare system like you guys do.
Yeah.
So we have this hybrid system where sometimes the government pays if you fall in a specific patient population. You're elderly, you're pregnant, you're a kid, what have you. Then there's people who are covered by their employers. Then there's people who buy it on their own. And when you have this like multi-system, no one knows what insurance they have. Everyone has a slightly different insurance. None of these insurance carriers are trying to improve that person's life in order to prevent the problem. Because in a universal healthcare system, if you invest in prevention, you reap the benefits of having less problems. But when you're a commercial system where you're insuring someone for 1 year, 2 years, you don't care if they're going to be healthy 10 years down the road. You just want to save as much money now and not pay to get them health care. So it's a really shitty system that we have
Yeah.
here right
Yeah,
now.
it's confusing. It's hard for me.
It does make you appreciate what the NHS, obviously.
Although I'm going to throw a little shade. NHS
Yeah.
has problems too these days with funding.
oh man, it's
and,
fucked.
yeah.
It's on its knees.
Oh, okay. So,
Oh no, that's not
You could say
not
that.
like an unpopular
Yeah.
opinion. Like
Okay,
everyone
good.
in the UK, everyone's there like, yeah, no, the NHS is like a really good thing, and then everyone's there like,
It'll take a
we'll raise
while
the
as well.
taxes so we could pay for it, and everyone's like, nah,
Like getting
don't do
something
that.
done through the NHS can take a sweet minute.
Yeah.
Take a
Yeah.
long time.
And then
Same thing with Canada. I mean, everyone says like, oh, we wish this was our system. It's like, yeah, and there'll be new problems. So like, we
Of
have to
course.
figure this out together. So ever evolving issue.
One of the
Yeah.
things that you touch on in a number of your videos are like medical myths.
Yes.
And I'm excited to ask about a few of these things.
Okay,
Off
cool.
the top of your head, are there any of the most common medical myths
Yeah.
that you come across or you get frequently asked about?
There's two topics that are super viral right now. Topic one is living longer. So there's like this huge obsession with biohacking and longevity and outliving everyone else. And I got to say, it's complete poo-poo.
No,
Okay.
not that Brian. What's his name? The guy that invests $2 million a year on his health.
Is
he
it the
was
red
on a
light guy?
podcast, yeah.
Oh, he was on a
But
podcast. Yeah.
So yeah, what about him? What are your
No,
feelings
but
on him?
you're talking about living longer. His whole life is about living longer.
Well, he's
Experimenting.
experimenting on himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I had him on my podcast, I very clearly discussed with him that, look, you doing this on yourself is totally cool. People have bodily autonomy. You're supposed to be able to do with your health what you want. Like some people will go rock climbing and that's really risky. Other people say never. I became a professional fighter, not healthy, but I do it because I accept the risks. So if he accepted the risks, that's cool. The issue is when from his experiments, he starts extrapolating that and saying that's going to work for everyone. Or other people will look at what he's doing and extrapolate and think it'll work for them. And that's where I have to draw the line and say that's absolutely not true. Because an experiment on your one person, let alone on yourself, is going to be so fraught with bias and confounding factors that you're not going to get to the truth of whether it works or not.
And what are some examples of like things that these guys are doing
Yeah,
for that longevity? Like what kind of bits are they doing?
No, I mean, the guy has, there's just so many.
We just had a debate actually. If you look at that fourth post, MRI saved my life.
Yeah.
If you click that, I'm the most upvoted comment, I believe, or at least slightly the most responded to.
Oh, there you go, Dr. Mike. Yeah, so you said
what do we
here.
got? 1,000 likes? Okay,
Full body
pretty good.
MRI screenings are not advised for the general public. They cannot make the claim that they are proven to save lives. So they partner with influential people who can make the statement that it saved their life. Red flags.
Right.
Ooh.
So I can give you sort of the breakdown of that.
Yeah, please.
There exist these companies that have come out and said, look, we have this technology, this MRI technology, which is imaging where you can look at the inside of your body, and we can scan your body and perhaps catch something early when you can act on it. And that's a sexy selling pitch.
Yeah, I like the sound of it.
I love the sound of it too. Like
Yeah.
on paper, it sounds wonderful,
Yeah.
but in practicality, it's fraught with a lot of problems. So when you scan someone's body without knowing what you're looking for, you're bound to have false positives, things that pop up, lumps, bumps, masses that we all have. And if you don't have any symptoms, which is what they're recommending, like if you feel fine, get scanned anyway, it's hard to know what to do with those lumps, bumps. So if someone has, abdominal pain and their stomach's really bothering them, and I find a mass in that area, now I'm investigating that mass because it's causing symptoms. But if I just scan people and find little bumps there, how do I know which one to investigate? And then that investigation creates a few problems. Health-related anxiety. Imagine sleeping knowing that you have something in your body that's potentially harmful. So crazy anxiety, raising your blood pressure, not sleeping well, all the things you need for good health. Second, intervention, meaning continuing to look at the diagnostic of what that bump is, has not just costs financially, but healthcare costs. To get a biopsy, there are risks to put a needle inside your body, infection, bleeding, nerve damage. So when you look at this on a population level, we haven't yet found the evidence that recommending it to everyone is ideal.
Right.
And these companies know that. They're not allowed to say that this is good for everyone. So what they do is they find an influential person to say a statement like, it saved my life, in order to convince you to do it on yourself.
So you think, oh, well, if it's saved, it's
Correct.
okay, I get you. So it's all just in more so like the phrasing
Yes.
and the way
They're trying to get around it by
Little
hiring
shady.
and working with these influencers.
Yeah.
Doesn't Liver King have his own MRI system?
Liver
in
King.
his
I
own?
wouldn't put
Yeah.
it past them. I mean,
Yeah. So you
with
said
that many steroids, though, I probably would be scanning myself. Not giving direct advice. But.
You mentioned there were two viral things. One was that living longer.
Yeah,
side.
so,
And then what's the other?
well, you asked, like, what are they
Sorry.
doing with the living longer
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that they do is they sell you these protocols that they've created, right? You've heard of protocol, like
Yeah.
ice bath protocol,
Yep.
or what other protocols? Like food protocols, like when I eat or don't eat, or even steroid protocols. They have those. And or they have rapamycin or medicine that help me live longer. Here's the problem. These people, some of them which are doctors, are making up their own protocols that are not yet tested. Meaning that the organizations that test these things, like you guys have the NHS, we have the American Academy of Family Physicians, or the CDC, FDA. These organizations have tried to test ways for us to live longer. They haven't found it. But these individual doctors claim they found it. I approached that with a lot of skepticism. Here's a really simple analogy of why I follow it with skepticism. You're running the New York City Marathon in 2 days, correct?
Yep.
What's the world record for a marathon pace? Do you know?
I want to say
Can we
it's
find
2
it?
hours and 1. Yeah, it's like 2 hours, 1 minute.
2 hours, 1 minute.
Pretty much.
Okay, if I looked at you right now and I said, look, I know that's the world record. No one's timed me yet, but I can run it in 1:30. What do you say?
I would say that's a lie
Why?
because
Are you certain that it's a lie?
No. Until you do it, I can't tell you that you
Correct.
can't do it, but I would also want to see you do it.
Correct. So when an individual tells me they figured out the protocol, all right, show me the validated study. Show me the clock that you used to time yourself. Show me the distance that was measured, the Olympic or marathon timekeeper that has tested you on it. And the relationship of that would be validated research, randomized controlled study, something to show me that your protocol is real. They don't have it. And until they do, what they're saying is just gassing themselves up.
Yeah.
Just like if I was saying I can run an hour 30 marathon.
So one person that I got interested in, I never did really anything about, but I certainly listened to a number of podcasts, and he is often sort of referred to as a bit of a grifter, or particularly in that space, is Gary Brecker.
Okay.
And particularly around a lot of the, I believe is it like the DNA side of things, and understanding your genes and whatever, and certain things that might be missing, so therefore your body can't process certain things, blah, 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 whatever.
Yes.
What was your take on that? And do you think there's elements of truth to it masked with BS?
I think there's a lot of simple things that he recommends that are very valuable. He talks about removing unhealthy habits like smoking, drinking alcohol to excess, focusing on getting good quality sleep, exercise, all wonderful advice and things that we say as doctors as well. However, then comes the red light beds, the ice water protocols, the faulty explanations about how hormones or DNA work. I mean, there was a clip that I reacted to on my YouTube channel where he literally was like, do you have headaches? It's because you don't have enough pink Himalayan sea salt.
Yes, I've seen that clip as well. Yeah.
And I'm just like, when a patient comes in to have and has a headache, can you imagine if I had the confidence to just diagnose it like that and it be about some salt thing? Like, think about how many things cause headaches: tumors, aneurysms, migraines, tension headaches, muscle spasm. And he's like, nope, salt.
And some poor fella's there just pouring more salt into his
and we're already in a society that overeats salt in general, and everyone's blood pressure is really high, and overconsumption of salt can actually raise blood pressure. So, like, the advice is just dangerous. And the reason why, actually, he's able to say things like that is because he's not a doctor. Because if I went out and said that, I'd get in trouble. There's liability. You would have to hold me accountable for saying that. But because he's just a dude or a human biologist,
I think that's
which I guess anyone who has a bachelor's degree in biology is also a human biologist, he can just say whatever he wants.
I think the bit that gives him the credibility, though, is when he has these celebrity case studies almost. And one of the most popular ones was Dana White.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and Dana White was obviously in a bad way. I think everybody could kind of see that. He wasn't the healthiest person. And he sort of claims that since meeting Gary Brecker and following certain protocols, I suppose.
Was it the water one?
What's that?
Was it the water thing he did?
I'm not sure. He did like a number of things. I think he went keto amongst a number of other things after looking at his bloods and all this sort of stuff. Do you think it's not necessarily the exact things that he went on, but it's just some general rules that he started to follow, such as the things that you mentioned of like sleeping well and eating better?
It's hard to know what happened in their relationship because I wasn't there. I'm not Dana White's doctor. From what he has said, he made a lot of lifestyle changes that are very valuable. How Gary Brecker motivated him to make those changes, I don't know. But that's awesome that he did because I want that for all my patients. I wish Gary Brecker would tell us how to better motivate people to make lifestyle changes because I would definitely use that. But when it comes to making lifestyle changes, it's less about following the perfect diet or the perfect exercise plan. It's about doing the simple things right consistently. And that's the hard part of taking care of your health. It's not about going to sleep the right time one night or a week. It's about doing it consistently and creating a lifestyle that's basically set up for success. And I don't know how he got him there, but I'm glad he did. And I have a very strong skepticism that it has nothing to do with the products that were listed in the protocol.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fair.
Oh, was he shilling something?
Yeah, they always have something to
There's
shill.
always something.
Yeah, it's never just
product.
what it looks
They're
like.
so good at it as well.
Well,
so
but
good at
that's
it.
why I
So
wanted
good.
to ask, though, because like, you know, they really make it seem, and somebody that I guess, well, I know is nowhere near as educated as yourself, or most people are. I can absolutely see how easy it is to combine like a case study like Dana White and also the confidence in which these people speak to then just be there like, well, yeah, I mean, I I guess why not, right?
Yeah, it's also so relatable. It sounds like Dana White had a terrible interaction with our healthcare system.
Yeah.
That his doctor wasn't good, didn't talk to them about lifestyle habits, which happens. Bad doctors are everywhere. So like that does happen. And it's a shame because a good doctor would have taken the steps to talk about lifestyle changes and probably gotten him the same place he is now without all those expensive fatty things that he was trying out. So it's a shame that happened, but I could see that being very relatable because a lot of people have bad interactions with healthcare.
I can imagine.
Really bad.
So, I mean, those guys are two examples of people that really focus on like that longevity.
Yeah.
What was the other bit?
Yeah, the other bit was fear mongering around like chemicals and pesticides and hormone disruptors, like plastics being everywhere.
Yeah, because, just a quick.
Yeah.
I want to know if this is what you're talking about, or
Are
like.
you going to talk about plastic in the testicles?
Yeah. So like, you know, where they're like, oh yeah, have you been wearing Calvin Klein boxers or whatever? Literally.
Here we go.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, have you been wearing Calvin Klein?
Receipts.
Well, guess what? Your sperm is fucked.
I remember this about the receipts.
Yeah.
Pull it up. What was it saying?
Yeah, pull up the receipts.
Yeah, pull up the receipts on the receipts, man. But yeah,
spoke
so
about it
is that what
before.
you're referring to? Or?
Yes, I'm doing it more like holistically zoomed out.
Yep.
Like receipts are one of those topics, and people really overly focus on that. And when it comes to talking about health, there are topics that get people excited and want to listen and lean in that are not very valuable in terms of if they make those changes, but take a tremendous amount of effort to make a change. What I'm saying is the willpower needed to make a serious lifestyle change is pretty limited. Fair to say? Like if I was to give you 10 things to change about your life, that's a lot harder than if I gave you 2.
Right.
So if I'm going to give you only a few things to do to improve your health, I want it to be the things that are going to make the biggest change. I promise you, receipts and Calvin Klein boxers aren't those
It's
two
not the
things.
one.
At the bottom of the list.
But that's what people talk about because it gets views. And you guys know, like in the podcast space, it's hard to get viewership.
It's so crazy.
So people will say the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
And I even had, this is not to throw shade, but I had a really well-respected doctor on my podcast who was fear-mongering about pesticides on strawberries. And first of all, I don't want to fear-monger about that because we're not unhealthy because we're eating too many strawberries. We're unhealthy because we're not eating strawberries. So scaring people away from strawberries is probably the wrong move. And then number 2, he said, let's eat organic instead of regular because those don't have pesticides. Not true. Organic produce still have pesticides here in the United States.
Right.
They just have a different class of pesticides. And then people say, well, they have chemical pesticides. Well, they're all chemical pesticides. Water is a chemical. H2O is a chemical. Air is a chemical. So like people who fearmonger about these things are really trying to do it, sometimes with good intentions, but for the wrong reasons in many instances. And as a result, people get really scared. They think they need to make huge changes, when in reality, it's small stuff. Wash your fruits and vegetables. Try not to reuse old plastic bottles.
Yeah.
And if you have kitchen products that use black plastic, I also tell people to get those out of there. Because there was like it's kind of a scary headline that happened a few weeks ago.
Oh, really? What was that?
Well, basically, black plastic has largely been recycled. And the reason, the place where it's been recycled from is from old tech products like VCRs, wiring. And those things had a chemical that was supposed to be a flame retardant. It was supposed to not catch on fire because they're electronic. And as a result, that chemical can potentially leach from those products and get into your food, into your water. And that chemical is known to have some negative situations for your health or implications for your health.
I just have a full pot of like black utensils, plastic utensils.
Really?
Yeah, so I would just say like
Just,
simple change.
get rid of those, man.
Yeah, not to fearmonger. I would just say stainless steel utensils.
Yep.
Avoid black plastic and washing hands after handling those things is valuable.
Interesting.
So simple things, not to
Yes.
fearmonger, but just some basic takeaways.
Well, I'm glad you told me that because I would have never known otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, because like the term hormone disruptor, right? They say like, oh my God, these doctors are giving you these things that are hormone disruptors, and they believe all natural is better. Well, first of all, not everything in nature is safe. In fact, there's a lot of poisons that happen in nature that are not safe.
Just ask Australia.
Exactly. And then second of all, things that are natural, like tea tree oil, right? People swear by it for certain conditions. That's also an endocrine disruptor.
Right.
But like, they're not going to tell you that because it's natural.
Got you.
And it's about hijacking the science to make some dollars and views, and I'm not about that life. So
Speaking of which, there's recently been a TikTok trend that's going around about what exactly do they call it, Brody? It's a perfume that they claim is an aphrodisiac.
Pheromones.
okay.
I want to know
Right.
about this.
So they claim that if you're putting this all on you. Here it is. So obviously there are some foods that could, like, here you go. This is the guy here. So this is the pheromone.
I mean, that Nike track jacket's probably what's doing the trick. Not
Yeah. Nah, I'm not too sure about the strange skit going on here, but the whole point is he's
What is going on there?
that looked like some
I'm
B-Tech
shocked
porno.
that has 173 likes.
Yeah. But these things are becoming like more and more out there. It is something that theoretically possible.
Theoretically, maybe. I until I see the evidence for it, I'm super skeptical.
Yeah.
And I think you want to be in a place where you're not cynical, where you just disbelieve everything. You're just like, all right, that sounds cool, and like whatever, maybe I'll consider it. But
So you're not
skepticism
taking
is
that guy's TikTok video as a
No,
medical research.
No. Look. Every time you watch something like that,
Yeah.
imagine the person saying, instead of whatever medical claim they're making, they're saying 1 hour 59 minutes. That's what I run.
Right. That's
then-
what I'm going to start doing.
Yeah, and imagine how you would go about trying to figure out if that's true or not.
Yeah. I think the next thing that I really want to talk about, and this is personal to me,
Okay.
as a professional mouth breather that I am.
Yeah.
And we also have a legend back in the UK who goes by the name Cole Palmer, a fantastic football player who has really put mouth breathers on the map. Okay. So big thank you to Cole Palmer for that. But mouth breathing lately has become a massive just thing. And I'll be honest with you, until maybe 2 years ago, 18 months ago maybe, I had no idea that this was even a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
I didn't know it was a thing, and now I started to see a lot. I listen to Huberman's podcast occasionally, and I think I had first heard about it on there. I'd love to hear from you, just a no bullshit guy. What is the effects of mouth breathing, and is it what it seems?
Well, first of all, breathing is very important.
Yes.
Fuck it. I'm glad we got you on, man.
Let's go.
I'm
I
glad
feel
we
like
got you on.
If I didn't go to medical school, I don't know how I would have kept up with that one. But it's very important. And obviously it's important to get air and breathe, all that stuff. But I'm also saying it, breathing, your pace of breathing, how you control breathing can impact your nervous state. So your body is a balance between the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic being rest, digest, repair. Sympathetic is fight or flight. I saw a lion. So when you breathe deeply and you activate your diaphragm, you can actually trigger a more relaxing state. And that's why there's all sorts of breathing techniques to help people calm down if they're angry, if they're stressed. Mindfulness, a big part of it is breathing. When you think about your breath, it's easy to disconnect from what's happening around you. So some people have trouble just sitting and not doing anything because their thoughts race. But if you can redirect your thoughts to your breath, it's a good way to distract yourself from the current state and kind of meditate and zone out. Mouth breathing, I would say it's slightly worse than nasal breathing, because nasal breathing, you do have some extra filtration, humidification of the air. But unless you're an elite athlete or you have a specific medical condition, focusing on it is rarely going to make a big change in your life.
Really?
Yeah,
Fuck, man. So all that mouth tape that I bought was what?
Well, the whole
Well,
thing.
no, again, I
around
don't know
it-
your medical condition, so maybe
No,
for
I
you,
don't
maybe
really.
there's like something in your sinuses or you have a nasal pop. Like, again, I don't know, so I can't speak on it. But for most people, the focus on it is largely going to be entertainment rather than like a true huge benefit.
And at the moment, it's the thing around it is basically that it affects the shape of your face.
Yeah,
right?
like the bone
and like
structure.
the jaw. Like, is this what is that? Is it
That's
a
like
lot
the
of
whole
bollocks or-
mewing technique, that there are exercises
Yeah.
that you can do to change the shape of your face. Once your jaw is formed, you're an adult. Odds
done.
of you changing your bone structure is going to be...
This is
The only
devastating.
thing that could really change that is some sort of orthodontic device that you're wearing to actually change your teeth, your bite, and therefore how your face ages. That is absolutely legitimate. But really, that's all been overblown and overhyped to try and get people scared or excited or sell them some kind of jaw trainer thing.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my
You
god.
Oh,
saw
the
that
chewing-
commercial
the
with
gum.
Ronaldo. With
The gum,
Yeah.
gum stuff.
Yeah. No. Or like the ball. Like that jaw trainer.
Oh
thing.
my god!
You don't
I've
remember
seen
that thing,
so
the
many
scene
times.
of
Yeah.
him clapping the thing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about with the wings?
I don't think I've
No,
seen
this
that.
is it. Ronaldo.
It's so
he's-
embarrassing. I can't believe
Say, you know, Ronaldo,
this is
by
back
the way.
in his influencer days.
Ronaldo has promoted some really suspect
Yeah.
stuff, by the way. He had what was it? Oh, these like the ab thing that you put on and it like
He did that too?
Yeah, he did like the
What, one where it like vibrates?
yeah, it
Oh.
vibrates and it just gives you abs. Yeah.
That would be amazing. It's a shame abs are made in the kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's what everybody said. Yeah, this thing. This is what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Come on
got
now.
it.
What a great guy, man. I wonder, he must still be using
He
those.
sees the money and he goes, fuck it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Another massive thing that's been sort of knocking around the internet is all like YouTubers releasing products.
Yes.
And I know you've spoken on some of this stuff previously, but would love to pick your brain a little bit about it and your thoughts on YouTubers bringing out. I mean, the latest one is obviously Lunchly. That seems to be a popular one, but
It's getting people really
Riled up.
emotional.
emotional. Yeah, people are getting really hyped up. And I spoke about it on the podcast.
Positive or negative?
I sort of defended it in the sense that I thought that the reaction to it was completely overblown. Purely because I felt as though, why is it that everybody holds YouTubers to some sort of crazy standard versus all these other big companies that exist that have endorsed celebrities since God knows when, but the moment a YouTuber does it, it's they're like, oh, this is infinitely worse.
Sure.
And then you also look at someone like Kai Cenat, who recently did a partnership with McDonald's, and it's like, I've got no problem with that, and I actually think a lot of the responsibility lies with the parents. Particularly like, something like Lunchly is targeted obviously towards a younger audience. And I think as a parent, it's your responsibility there to say, no, you don't actually want this, or sure, you can have it once a week or whatever that is. So I always feel as though that direction towards YouTubers always just feels a little bit misplaced. And I'd love to get your
I'll
thoughts
play
on
a
it.
little devil's advocate so
Please
we can have a cool interaction with this. For YouTubers getting hate for their products, I don't think that's necessarily true. When Jimmy or Mr. Beast put out Feastables, were there people angry that he made candy where kids shouldn't be eating candy?
No, there was direction wasn't like.
But his whole thing was about it being a healthier alternative, and I get that it's.
You mean with Lunchly? Because the whole thing with Lunchly was that it was marketed as a healthier version of Lunchables.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think that's where the biggest anger came from, that there's a claim being made that it's healthier, which is very limited if you're going to even say it's healthier. And when you put a claim that something is healthier, you're encouraging young people to want it more than other foods. And with how influential YouTubers are, that's what we are, we're influencers. There should be a little bit of integrity there where you're like, if I'm going to be influential, I got to make sure I tell the truth and then I'm guiding in the right direction. So I think that's where the combination of all three things came from. Whereas if they made Lunchly and they said, hey, ours is way more fun than Lunchables, I don't think there would have been as much backlash. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way that I think about it.
I get that. At the same point, had they come out and said, this is a healthy, like, snack or lunch, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the name. This is a healthy lunch. At that point, I'd probably have been there like, okay, now I feel like you're being slightly...
As opposed to what?
Well, then saying this is a healthier. And although it is, maybe not that much of a difference, if it is, then it is. And it still goes back to the point that this is for kids and parents should have a lot more control over what they do and don't eat, because why is this not going at Lunchables itself or just any other
Sure.
thing?
I think both things you're saying could be right at the same time. So I think, yes, parents need to watch what their kids are eating. And one of the things that I give parents advice when they come in and their child is having an issue with weight or health is they say, well, what can I do to get them? Well, stop buying it. That is the advice I would give. But some parents, that's not always feasible. The situations at home in different households is very different. So some single parents working multiple jobs, their kids are really just eating whatever they can buy. The kid is yelling. There's a bad dynamic. All these things do exist. And these days with social media it's having a way different influence when it comes to marketing than it has been in the past. That it's so targeted directly at them, where I think now kids are way more influenced than, let's say, I was growing up watching television commercials. So I think it's always been a problem, and I think we're rightfully villainizing how a lot of these food companies have tricked us into eating refined carbs, a lot of sugar. They told us things were healthy because they were low fat, but instead of feeding us fat, they just fed us a ton more carbs. So like they tricked us for so long that I think anytime someone's innovating in that field, innovate to be better than the stuff that's hurting us, than to just continue on with the same process. I think also YouTubers are kind of disruptors, right? That we're disrupting media. We're doing something different. We're making it better. We're more transparent. The way we're talking right now is way better than the 2-minute segments on television these days, right? That's why people listen. They like that there's less of, there's more parasocial relationship. And when you're going to be a disruptor in media, people expect you to be a disruptor in the food industry if you're entering the food industry. So ideally, like if you're going to say something's healthier, make it healthier. I think there's room for that. I think hopefully that they'll take note of all this feedback and make a healthier lunch in the future.
And in regards to it as an actual product and the stuff around it, right? Is it actually still quite bad? Even though the marketing
I don't like
it as
villainizing
healthier?
food, period.
Yeah.
I like talking about from a factual perspective as opposed to bad and good. When we look at what's a healthy lunch for a kid ideal, it's not that. It's still an ultra processed food, which we consider generally unhealthy for kids. I mean, as a snack every now and then, okay, I could see that being okay. But making it a regular lunch thing for your kid is going to either get them too few calories, too many calories from saturated fat, too much sodium if they are consuming enough calories. So there's all sorts of issues with it being a true lunch that I would never recommend it for anyone.
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis,
Yeah.
as
And I
a
remember
lunch.
back in the day when I was younger, like Lunchables was quite a common lunch I'd be having.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
like a one-off. Like it was just easy for my mom to just buy that, and I'm just having that like every day.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah, and we grew
But
up in a society where like soda was huge.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, the amount of soda I put away
Oh,
growing up, like,
100%.
there's no way that was
Every
healthy.
lunch.
I look back on it like, fuck, what was I doing? Even now, I'll be like, right, hey, put that Coca-Cola
yeah.
away.
Well, here's how smart these companies have gotten. The major soda brands, the sugary soda brands, have realized that consumers here are starting to figure out that this stuff isn't healthy, that it's causing obesity rates to go up, health risks, all that. So what they're doing now is they're going to Africa, they're going to areas, remote areas of South America, and they're trying to get the kids hooked on it early because they feel like they won't know about the negative implications. So they're spending huge advertising dollars in these areas in order to generate profits.
Jesus
that
Christ,
is
that
fucking
is
mental,
insane.
really, isn't
But
it?
surely they realize that
coin.
no matter what, the time is ticking because
They do, but they're thinking in the now. They got to get their profits in.
Yeah.
Their
Is it
shareholders
not
got
just
to be
like
happy.
worth
so.
it for them to just put it all into R&D and just figure out healthier?
Well, we do
version for
have
it? Which they obviously
soda
do.
with artificial sweeteners, which people also online villainize
Yeah.
aggressively. So.
Oh yeah, you always hear about Diet Coke gives you cancer. That is literally like you always.
yeah,
hear,
yeah, that is
always.
just, yeah.
hear that.
Wait, is that? Is
Yeah,
tell
that's
me
a good
about
one.
that because there's a what's the name of the ingredient that they always
Aspartame?
Yes, that's it, and that's what they claim is in Diet Coke. Therefore, you're in with a good chance of cancer. Now, my girlfriend loves Diet Coke, so be careful what you say.
Even you like
Okay,
a
the
cheeky
threat
Diet
is
Coke.
in.
Oh,
but no- yeah.
I'm partial to a Diet Coke.
Okay. If you're drinking water regularly, I would not encourage someone to start drinking Diet Coke to be healthy because it's not a health food.
Right.
But if you're someone who has health risks, who is over-consuming calories, over-consuming simple sugars, if I can get that person to switch over to a diet soda with aspartame or whatever ingredient, there's better ones that I prefer, but let's say aspartame, that's a win. That's called risk reduction. Is it perfect? No. Perfect is getting them to water and to exercise and all these things. But when it comes to real-life medicine, perfect is rarely available. In fact, in healthcare, there's this mantra that we live by. The enemy of good is trying to be perfect. So if I can get someone to make that swap from a sugary soda, from a person who's overweight into a diet soda, odds are that's going to be a healthy choice for them. Do I then want them to switch over to water or seltzer? Yeah, that would be a better choice. But to say that it causes cancer, we don't have that. We can't say that definitively. And you know what's
Great
funny?
news. My girlfriend's buzzing with that, bro. Thank
Oh,
you.
boy.
Thank you for that.
There is some research that it impacts your microbiome. It impacts your cravings. Some people will get worse cravings because they feel like they're getting a sugary hit because it tastes sweet. But then once it gets into your stomach, it's not giving you that fulfillment. Therefore, because you don't absorb the aspartame.
Yeah.
And it's pretty unique. I don't know if you guys ever really put thought into this. Do you notice that anything that's artificially sweetened tastes much different?
It does.
It does.
Yes.
Do you know why it tastes different?
Because it's artificial.
Well, I guess that's
probably the only answer
Yeah,
I'd
now
be
you
giving
know
you as well,
the
my
type
man.
of
I'll be
podcast
honest.
host you're
That-
with
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
We ain't quite got the brains.
touche.
Yeah. Is he wrong?
It's how long the taste lingers on your taste bud. So if you notice, if you take an artificial sweetener or a soda, it lasts longer. And because that taste lingers, your brain knows that it's not real sugar. Because glucose is a quick hit and goes away.
Yeah. So you would say there is a net benefit.
It's the speed, basically. The speed
it's
of which the flavor goes away. And your brain will know that, like, oh, this is lasting a little too long and it's not real.
On the topic
Trying
of
to
like
trick the brain and not having it.
Yeah.
You little fucker.
Well, this is yeah.
Well, if you think about what our tongues and noses are, they're just chemical receptors. Like
Yeah.
they can sense different chemicals in the air, in our food. It's pretty cool.
The tongue
Yeah.
is underrated. Let me tell you something I love about a tongue.
Oh, tell us.
Okay, here we go. Let him cook.
Any item in this room, I know what it would be like to lick it.
That's so true.
I missed what you said. Say the beginning.
Any item in this room, look at any item in this room. Could be his leg, his foot, the chair.
Oh,
this.
you're saying
you know
sensation.
what it's like to lick that item, the sensation.
Because you've tasted it before?
No. I just feel like I know what it would taste like.
Yes, I've been licking this mic.
Like I know what it would taste like.
So
yeah.
there's
not
a
taste,
saying.
not taste.
No,
there's
I could, bro.
Not
I could lick that and I know
Do
what it
you
would
guys
taste
have
like.
this
true.
saying that, like, if something tastes really terrible, how would you say it tastes like?
Shit.
Okay. Do you know what that tastes like?
Fuck, man. Have I ever? Well,
If there are guys that are gonna know, it would be us.
But let me tell you something. I know what shit would taste like.
Really?
Yeah.
I know what it would feel like to lick the shit, though. That's what I'm saying, guys. Please, this is definitely a thing. You know, like the actual sensation of the feel of
What,
it,
the texture?
not the texture of it.
Got
You
it.
can imagine what it's like to lick this sofa.
Well, I think we need to do an experiment.
I'm telling you.
Should. But there's nothing
With
good that
scientific
comes of this.
parameters.
How do you quantify that?
No,
It's just a thing. It went viral on Twitter, and I was like, "Wait, shit is actually fucking true. I know what it's like to lick everything. Like I can picture it in my head, and that's the right feeling."
I think you can do like one of those, you could put your hand in a box where you can't see and you feel it.
Yep.
We can do an example of that
gotta
with
do
the
that.
tongue.
Yeah.
I think that's the next
Be like,
viral
what are
YouTube
you licking?
short that you guys do.
Let's do it.
I tell you
but
what.
just don't have me lick shit and take my word for it.
I mean, you'll never know.
Yeah, you won't
that's
know.
true. Yeah, good point. Actually, I'll be able to be like, you've just given me shit, haven't you?
Yeah. How does he know?
Yeah.
What a
Experience.
shitty doctor.
My the next thing actually, we spoke about mouth breathing for me, but this one is a bit more chip based, and it's all to do with testosterone. We have a massive sort of audience that are probably going between the ages of like 18 and 25. And recently, there's been a lot of chat online about testosterone levels and how that affects somebody. And I mean, you'll be better to speak about it. But you went through, I guess, a moment of being there like, oh, I think my testosterone level and how that affects you.
Yeah, I went and got my bloods done, and it was low. I couldn't tell you the exact amount. I could probably pull up the testo on my email. And it was lower than what the recommended values were or what the ideal values were. And this was like...
And you checked it once?
I've checked it twice.
And it was low both times?
Yeah, so because I just wanted to figure out what to do. And the second time I did it, I think it was actually lower than the first time. And they were offering, obviously...
When did you check it?
When did I do that?
No, like time of day?
Oh, morning.
Okay, first thing in the morning?
Yeah, I think it was first thing in the morning. You're meant to check it at a certain time, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then
Because
obviously...
a lot of the hormone clinics,
Yep.
especially here in the States, they'll like have you come in at a specific time.
Like in a
so that
shady
your
way.
insurance will cover it.
Oh.
Fascinating.
At a
Okay.
specific time.
Well, yeah, they instantly offered you.
Yeah, which is testosterone replacement therapy. But that's usually what older men would take. And I was like, obviously 30. I was like, I don't
Well,
really
that's
want
not
to...
necessarily for older men. It's for people who have hypogonadism.
Okay.
Where you have low levels of testosterone, whether you're young or old.
But once you go on it, you're kind of on it for the rest of your life, right?
Yes. Fertility is also something to think about.
Yep.
But there's also people using it again, it's hard to speak about your case without knowing all the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But in a situation where someone needs testosterone replacement therapy because they're low, there's clear benefit as to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's always risks, but there's benefit to doing that. When it comes to people using testosterone hormone just to boost their testosterone, to make it better or to build muscle, that exists a lot too, especially in the celebrity world. Yeah, it's like a steroid.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because you're taking young people who are healthy and you're essentially raising their risks for no benefit.
What are those risks?
Heart issues, fertility issues are really bad. Potential cancer risks. If they're not getting their screenings done correctly, there's all sorts of abnormalities that can happen on your blood work. Liver inflammation, cholesterol issues. Like there's just so many things that can happen that you're doing it just to boost your muscle, it's like,
what
Not
are
worth
some of the things though, if you do have a low testosterone count, like that you would seriously notice a difference in if you got it to a normal level?
So the general symptoms that are talked about is feeling brain fog, issues with sexual desire, erection difficulties. And erection difficulties on its own is not a sign specifically pointing to low testosterone. In fact, erection issues usually are like in the single digits caused by testosterone. So it's pretty rare that it's just from that. Issues maintaining lean muscle mass. So all those are factors that we would take into consideration, where you would ask really thorough questions to your patient. You would order the correct lab work. You'd recheck it in a certain period of time. You do it at the right time in the morning, where a lot of clinics are not. And then if you do choose to go down the path of taking testosterone replacement therapy, you properly counsel on the risks, benefits, like talking about fertility, planning for that, because there's things you can do to plan for based on the timing of when you'd like to get pregnant or get someone pregnant. And then monitoring, making sure you're taking the right dose, make sure you're not doing it too much, checking all your other lab values, make sure there's no side effects happening. Because one of the things that you need to check for is to make sure that you don't have prostate cancer. Because taking testosterone therapy cannot necessarily cause prostate cancer, but if you have it, it can accelerate it.
Right. Yeah, increase the chances.
It sounds scary.
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
It's a big leap to take, really.
Are there ways that you can boost your testosterone that aren't TRT?
All the basic lifestyle things that doctors have talked about. Resistance training seems to help. Getting good quality
actually
sleep.
Going to the gym itself.
Yeah,
does that.
Doing compound lifts, resistance training multiple times a week is going to be valuable. And there's no such thing as retention. So some people are like, don't masturbate or have sex for X number of months, and you're going to boost your testosterone. That doesn't seem to hold water.
Because that was a big thing, actually, with boxers.
Yeah.
So there was
I had that thrown at me as advice when I had my fight on the Jake Paul undercard. Yeah,
exactly. So that's just not a thing. It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to bear out in the research. So.
No.
Again, people make their claims of one. Basically, someone said they ran 140. I checked it, and their clock was a little bit off.
Amazing. And on the topic of wanking and masturbating, that's something that comes up a lot on this podcast.
There was like 3 puns you threw at me there.
Comes
up a lot?
Well, yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I'm saying here. You need to just take over, honestly. But this sounds crazy, okay? Is there too much to the point where it's bad for you?
Gooning.
That is actually the new trending word, isn't it?
What is that? I don't even know what
it's like doing
it just means
too
like
much.
Wanking, masturbating too much. You said that like it doesn't really affect your.
I mean, like, look,
level
extremes
there.
like.
Okay, I'm not talking about like. I'm not talking.
There could
about
be mental situations with addiction and things like that.
How much?
Again,
is too
remember,
much?
I'm thinking about it from a doctor standpoint of extremes, because people do come into my office with extremes.
Really?
I mean, yeah, like in every situation. So like. Some people, you think they have a rash and it looks really bad, and you're like, oh, what condition could be causing this rash? It could be just that person has excoriations where they're constantly scratching the area from like a nervous tic or a psychiatric condition. So like these things do happen, and mostly when you're talking about it, you're probably not thinking about those extreme cases.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to leave that topic because you've just brought up something super interesting, and I want to ask you just a quick question. Have you worked in like we call it A&E?
Like an emergency room?
Yeah, emergency room. Yeah. What is like the craziest thing that's been wheeled through? Because obviously as a big Grey's Anatomy fan, I've seen a lot of stuff on Grey's Anatomy, but I want to know what the craziest thing is.
I remember I was training in one of the inner city hospitals in New Jersey, actually. And there was a lot of level 1 traumas, like gunshots, a lot of bleeding out, knife wounds. And I remember I was working an overnight shift, and all of a sudden you hear screaming at the front. And someone, apparently a car just drove by and threw someone out. And they were bleeding out because they'd been shot. And I was like the first person to have responded. And this person's bleeding. So like I'm putting pressure to try and, because it was arterial bleed. So for those who don't know, arterial bleeds lose blood very quickly because that's a high pressure system. There's a lot of blood flowing there, thick arteries, especially in the femoral area. And I was putting pressure on it, not having good sanitation. And I'm freaking out. We get him stabilized. We throw him on the cart, and they're now working on him to get him to trauma surgery and stabilizing. Yeah. And I realized, like, oh my God, my hands are covered in blood. I got to wash off. Because the first thing you got to do when you have exposure to a patient's fluids, blood, what have you, is getting your hands clean or the area clean. And I realized I got to get my hands clean because I got some blood on it. So I see a faucet like pretty far down the hallway, and I'm like, oh, I got to go run, wash my hands. I go wash my hands. I come back, and all of a sudden there's a guy screaming at me. And I'm like, why is there a guy screaming at me? And I realize it's a member of the environmental services staff, like the custodian. And I look down, and I spread blood, footprints, all across the entire floor. Because when I went to go rescue him, I got it all over my sneakers. And it was just all, and he's like, dude. And I'm like, oh my God, this is rookie move. I shouldn't have went to the furthest sink.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that's like something of a horror movie.
Yeah. So it was really bad, just like blood tracking all across. Oh. And it was my bad. So I apologize.
Damn.
But we saved that young guy's life. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this is kind of dark, but have you you've obviously dealt with scenarios where people don't survive these things.
Of course.
How do you deal with that? Like as somebody that maybe sees that more than they'd like to, like because that must be a pretty rough thing to take. Yeah. And are you one of those people that sort of remember a lot of them and struggle to deal with it, or are you quite good at putting it to the side?
You have to get good at it because it's kind of part of the job. Dealing with families that are experiencing loss, probably the hardest thing, because you're watching people at their lowest. Sometimes it happens unplanned, where it's their young child and you have to tell them that this is ongoing. But a big part of my training was if you're in the ICU, a lot of times doing chest compressions, like the thing that we talked about earlier, might be futile, meaning that trying to bring a person back might be doing too much and you're actually harming the person and making them uncomfortable in their final moments. So some of the difficult conversations that I've had with patients and their families is about withdrawing care or stopping chest compressions. That's a tough conversation. Yeah. And the only way you can have that conversation in a way that's valuable to everyone is to be as honest and transparent as possible. Look, we think performing these chest compressions is only going to be more harmful. We're going to break ribs. Even if we were to bring them back, they're going to be in a worse state from when they started. So we don't think it's going to be valuable. And then you have the conversation and answer as many questions as you can. And I actually have went through that on the other side of that, where unfortunately I lost my mom to cancer when I was going through medical school. And the residents came to me and told me they had to stop doing chest compressions, and I asked them to stop on my mom. So I know what that's like, and those alarms going off when the heart flatlines and all the residents running for what we call a code blue here, that'll stick with me forever because I know what that feels like.
And then I guess on a hopefully like a slightly more positive note is, have you ever experienced what people refer to as like a medical miracle or something where you've just seen like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this person has either survived it or, you know, a moment that made you think, oh geez, you know, it's easy to point everything towards science, but sometimes just say like, fair enough, like this is a pretty miraculous recovery.
I went against the odds.
No,
you haven't had that yet.
I've had the sad moments more than I've had those miraculous moments. Mm-hmm. The miraculous moments to me is when science does what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
When you give the treatment and it turns someone's life around, or you do the chest compressions and you bring them back to life. Those are amazing, but I wouldn't call them necessarily miracles because they are based on modern science.
Yeah.
I've even gotten close to some patients that I've lost, and it's been a really tough time where you take care of them, you see how amazing they are as humans, and they're battling end-stage cancers and all these sorts of illnesses that you wish you had the cure for, but unfortunately we don't have all the answers.
Yet.
Yes. That's a good optimistic point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, is there something that you think we're close to in terms of a breakthrough? And this can be any sort of, maybe it's a disease, it's something like that. I mean, I think it's really hard. A lot of time in the news will often get, they're close to this, and it's like, okay, cool. It's just the news. It's either a slow news day or they're trying to twist a bit of news to be there like, oh, we're close to this. But do you genuinely believe that we're close to something, to solving something?
Yeah, I'm hoping we're going to get close to making medicine truly personalized based on people's genetic code, based on their pre-existing numbers. Or like, for example, when I give someone a blood pressure medicine to lower their blood pressure into what we call a healthy range, I have to give that medicine to a lot of patients in order to have that one person's life that I save. And I don't know which person that is because I have to, on average, give it to, let's say, 88 people. But with AI, hopefully, we're able to crunch these numbers better in research where we say, you don't need to give it to these 88 because these 78 won't actually benefit. It's one of these 10. Now I don't have to give medicine to 78 people where they're going to have side effects. So the medication can be a lot more targeted, valuable. We know which treatments are going to be better for which person. So there's less trial and error. And hopefully that continues to improve.
So it's a lot of, well, I guess it's just the
genetics,
tech.
yeah, the tech. Also, from an imaging perspective, I'm hoping to see more like hologram stuff, internals of the body, where we don't have to go into the body as often as we are right now surgically. Yeah. That'll be really exciting.
And what do you think about wearables? And because there's a lot of talk. Sometimes one of the big things is like, oh, they can be quite inaccurate, and fair enough. Like, I know the heart rate monitor on this isn't great, but it's a rough idea. But I've also seen a lot of stories about how like Apple Watches have saved people's lives and that side of things. Do you think that there's that wearable medical tech has a lot of potential, or do you think it's just a little bit overblown?
I think it has a lot of potential, but I need to press the brakes a little bit to how people are treating it these days and the way companies are sort of marketing it these days. More data sounds like it's better, right? Don't you want to know more about yourself? No. You want data that's actionable. That's something you could make a change. Like if I could tell you, hey, you have a higher chance of getting this fatal disease. If you can't change anything to change your odds, why would you want to know that?
I did one of those DNA tests.
Oh, here you go. Did it tell you something interesting?
Nah, it fucking spooked
What
the
did
shit
it say again?
It said like, oh,
It
you
did
have
say something.
a higher risk of this and and for the most part, to be fair, I'm pretty just like, oh, whatever, like.
And that's what most people will be.
Yeah, but some
Yeah.
people won't, and they'll get anxious as fuck. And
Yeah. And again, what is the value of that? And also there's the privacy component. What are they going to do with your DNA?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that definitely
Well,
spun me.
there's a
like,
big company right now, I don't want to name names, that's currently undergoing like huge financial losses. Their board of trustees has resigned because there's concerns with all of this and more, like consumer at-home genetic testing. How that data is handled is so scary to me as a doctor and someone who's like kind of sci-fi conspiracy theory.
Oh, well, you're on board with that?
You.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm worried about that because like they have a piece of your genetic material. What they'll do with it is probably nothing. But.
So on this topic, because I had a big sort of, I looked myself in the mirror, like, do I actually want to send this to wherever the hell it's going?
Yeah, exactly.
But do you not think that at the end of the day, if they wanted to get a bit of that genetic, they could probably just...
they can easily get it. All they have to do is track you for the day and go to your room or see where you sit.
But you're just saying on a mass scale.
In mass scale.
Yeah, because you're giving it over for them, aren't you, this time?
Yeah.
And then they would have to track, put all the information in about you. It's the same way that, like, look, you lock your door at night, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also really easy to kick down.
Yeah.
But you still lock your door.
Mm-hmm. Got you.
Yeah.
I'll make it as hard as I can.
Yeah. Like, don't make it easier to break into your house.
Just leaving the door open.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sounds like you might have something exciting coming up, so I hope that goes well for you.
Crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
But yeah, look, really appreciate you coming on, and I know our fans as well they love hearing this type of stuff.
Yeah, it's good to have a great mind on because normally it's just us two chatting.
Well, hopefully it's good that
fans.
you guys are getting the truth as opposed to some like
exciting
stuff where
for sure.
now you're getting the
and now I'm
going
to change plastic
even
in
if
my
it's
kitchen.
boring. Yeah, exactly.
And just to end on one note, if you can give one bit of advice to the viewers out there,
what
would that be?
Maybe a little philosophical advice as opposed
Please
to medical, because I shouldn't be giving generalized medical advice. I have one tattoo, and that tattoo represents kind of my mantra in life. And the tattoo is "Know thyself." It's in Latin. And before you do anything in life, whether it's picking a partner, a career, you want to be a YouTuber, you want to be a doctor, you have to know yourself. And that means experimenting and trying out different things and putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. So the more you can do that, the more you'll learn, the better decisions you'll make that you'll be happy with.
Amazing.
Damn, that was a dime.
Yeah. Bro just left us with a gem there.
Now I'm just going to be like staring at the floor all day like, shit.
What am I?
Who am I?
Amazing. Look, guys, of course, you can check out all of his content. We'll leave a link in the show notes and also in the description. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Mike. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.